Let's talk about something that happens in pretty much every office, but we almost never discuss it out loud: the psychological price we pay for oversharing. This is all about strategic silence, and why what you don't say at work might just be the secret ingredient to your success and, honestly, your sanity. You know this feeling, right? We've all been there. That sinking in your stomach right after you let something personal slip to a coworker. It's exactly like this quote says. It feels like you've handed over a piece of yourself that you can never get back. It's this feeling of being exposed, of losing control of your own narrative. And look, this isn't just you being overly sensitive or having a bad day. Psychology actually shows us that feeling is a real signal. It's a genuine loss of emotional control, and it can kick off some deep-seated anxiety. In a professional setting, your peace of mind really, truly depends on your privacy. So, that brings us to our first major area: protecting your professional image. Because, let's be real, how you're seen at work isn't just about the quality of your output. It's profoundly shaped by the words you decide to share or not share. Okay, rule number 1 of strategic silence: you should never, ever share your deepest insecurities. I know you might think being vulnerable helps you connect with people, but you gotta remember, the workplace plays by a totally different set of rules. So why is this so risky? Well, it comes down to a psychological trap called status perception bias. The second you voice a deep-seated weakness, you risk changing how your colleagues see your competence. It's not even conscious, but they might start to, handle you differently, subtly sidelining you and stalling your growth. All right, next up, another area where silence is absolutely golden: your money. Your finances. It doesn't matter if you're crushing it or just scraping by. Talking about your financial situation at work is like walking through a minefield. And this just lays it out so perfectly. It's a total no-win situation. If you earn more, it can easily breed jealousy, even resentment. But if you earn less, you risk being pitied or maybe even seen as less valuable. Either way, you've just shifted the entire conversation away from your professional contributions and onto your bank account. And that's a game you just can't win. Now, the last point in this section. This one's a tough one, because it feels so good to share our excitement, right? But you've got to guard your big goals and dreams. That side hustle you're starting, your plans to move into a new role, your big 5-year plan. Keep it close. The reason for this is a fascinating little brain quirk called the intention-behavior gap. See, when you announce a big goal, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. It's the same chemical reward you get from actually achieving the goal. So it tricks your mind into feeling like you've already done the hard part, and that can completely kill your motivation to do the actual work. So let's just pause here for a second and ask yourself this. Are you leaving your emotional blueprints just lying around on the conference table for anyone to see? Because protecting your image is one thing, but protecting your inner world, that's just as important. And that's a perfect lead-in to our second section: controlling your emotional energy. This is all about how you can reclaim your inner calm and set some serious boundaries in an environment that, let's face it, you can't always control. Okay, this first piece of advice is so critical. You should never reveal what really gets under your skin. We all have things that push our buttons, but your coworkers do not need a map to them. I love this metaphor. Think about it this way. It's literally like handing a coworker your emotional remote control. Even if they mean well, they now know exactly which buttons to press to get a reaction from you, whether they do it on purpose or not. Protecting your triggers is all about protecting your own peace. Oh man, here's a huge temptation for so many of us. Venting about family issues or personal drama over lunch. It feels like such a relief in the moment, but from a psychological standpoint, it's often doing way more harm than good, and the reason why is pretty interesting. It all comes down to a process called memory reconsolidation. When you vent, you aren't just letting off steam. See, every single time you retell that painful story, your brain reopens the emotional wound. It actually strengthens the neural pathways tied to that negative memory. It literally keeps you stuck in that same frustrating loop. And in that same vein, it is so important to keep your romantic life out of the office. Complaining about your partner to a coworker might seem totally harmless, but it can have some serious psychological blowback. This is a classic case of what's called emotional triangulation. You're taking emotional energy that really should be used to solve problems within your relationship, and you're diverting it to a third person at work. This doesn't just paint an unfair picture of your partner, it actively weakens your connection at home. The problem needs a solution, not an office audience. Okay, let's jump into our final section: guarding your personal journey.
This is all about protecting the things that give you joy and momentum from the subtle and often unintentional influence of other people.
This slide sums up our last 3 points really well. First up, your acts of kindness. If you broadcast them, you can fall into the self-presentation trap, where your kindness becomes more about getting credit than about compassion. Next, your fragile happiness. Sharing a big win too soon can lead to emotional misalignment. If your colleague is having a rough time, they just can't match your joy, and that can create this silent resentment. And finally, your private plans. Sharing them too early invites social feedback loops, where even a simple question like, "Are you sure about that?" can plant a seed of doubt and totally kill your momentum. So, after all of this, what's the big takeaway? It's simple, really. Silence in a professional setting isn't about being cold or weak or secretive. It's actually a powerful sign of self-respect. It's about getting smart about the psychology of the workplace so you can protect your most valuable assets, your energy, your reputation, and your peace of mind.
I want you to remember this. The most centered, most effective people in your office aren't necessarily the quietest ones. They're just the ones who are the most intentional with their words. They don't leak emotional or strategic energy. They contain it, they control it, and they point it where it's going to matter most.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Which of these psychological traps have you seen or maybe even fallen into yourself in your own workplace? Just thinking about it is the first step to reclaiming your power. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.